Tag TV and Tag Radio be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Business telephone systems. They began as private branch exchanges. The rapidly antiquated PBX system provided and managed by local phone companies. Business used the phone company's analog circuits to deliver calls from a central office to the customer. Enter voicemail systems, the explosion of cell phones and the proliferation of PCs, not to mention the exponential growth of email. Suddenly, messaging and real-time communications began to combine. While the term unified communication showed up in the mid-90s, by today's standards, it's more like your father's Oldsmobile than the Maseratis of the new era. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, January 8, 2013, and this is a premier showcase edition of Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. The handset, no longer a device hanging off a copper loop from a PBX. Instead, today's telephone lives on the network as another computer device with advanced features provided by letting computer applications communicate with server computers elsewhere in any number of ways. Up to the Tech Talk, today's unified communication systems, they no longer focus strictly on the telephony of daily communications. The Tech Talk turns to industry-leading expert, co-founder and CTO of Adcap Network Systems, Rolf Versluis, as we explore the unification of all communications devices inside a single platform, the mobility, the presence, and contact capabilities that extend beyond the phone to all devices a person may use or have at their disposal. Rolf is an electrical engineer with 22 years' experience in systems operating design, deployment, and support. A former nuclear submarine officer, he leads the technical practice at Adcap, crafting architectures that the firm's engineers deploy and support for a mix of clients in local government, education, and mid-sized commercial organizations, all providing advanced and secure communications, networking, and computer systems. Adcap is a Cisco Gold Partner with Master Unified Communication Specialization. From cloud impact to the mobile and bring your own device revolution, voice, video, chat, conferencing, speech-to-text, screen sharing, and more. The secret to know when and how to get it all and to get it right the first time as we Tech Talk today and tomorrow's unified communication systems with Adcap Network co-founder and CTO Rolf Versluis. Rolf, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thanks, Frank. Good to be here.
Well, one of those terms, much like I think we're going to talk a little bit later about clouds and those kind of things, but I think by and large, people either know about unified communications and have been using it for some time, or they're totally confused and haven't really got haven't gotten enough information to really realize its importance and its impact on today's marketplace. So let's start out with a kind of a fundamental. What is unified communications, and how is it different from traditional communications?
That's a great question, Frank. The unified part of the unified communications is starting out with running voice over a data network. So in many traditional voice implementations, the PBX, or private branch exchange, is a big device that sits in a building and runs wires out to all the phones and connects to the outside world, and that's all there is to it. Over the years, companies also built up a parallel data network so they could get email and access servers and do all sorts of work. Well, the data network had grown to become more comprehensive than the voice network, and so unified communications was initially the joining of the two. So the upshot of it is you get a really good phone system that runs over your data network. That's the starting point. So less wires, and the reliability of data networks is really high because nobody can really do much with their data network anymore. And then from that, it builds above and beyond it. So just like you have a data network that can extend to companies' offices all over the country and all over the world, once your voice network is unified, you can extend it to wherever your data network goes as well. So that means if you're running phones that are part of a unified communication system, everybody in the organization can 4-digit dial each other no matter where they're at. And you can save some money on long-distance charges. But the really big thing is the convenience of being able to have everybody on the same single phone system. And then you can even extend it over the Internet if you want and put full-up office phones at people's houses. And that's just the starting point. There's so much more that can be done with unified communications.
Well, I mean, again, I'm going to think that one of the key obvious is a solid data network. I'm kind of stumbling around here now. This is your territory, but my interest would be, and I think a lot of our listeners who are not involved, is the complexity of the devices that have to come together on a single, let's say, system. You know, desk phones, computers, smartphones, tablets, and then you've got video and even chat and conferencing. Maybe tell us how all of that integrates into or does it integrate into a single system?
It does integrate into a single system, and you're right that a good data network is the foundation for that. And so by good, I mean certainly reliable and manageable, but also it has the ability to differentiate between the different types of traffic that go over the data network. So, for example, you'd probably want voice to be able to get to where it needs to go faster than a big download or a big email. So a good data network can differentiate between that. And also, a good data network has levels of reliability built into it, so there's no single point of failure.
And again, explain that in a little bit when you say single point of failure. When you're in what would have been a more traditional connection, one downtime, one endpoint that had a problem or difficulty would impact the entire system, and in this case that doesn't happen? Or again, am I being naive? Is it something like that?
Well, I mean, you can design a data network to any level of redundancy and reliability that you want, but price always comes in as a design factor at some point. So usually...
I'm going to get security, too, so I'm going to ask you about that next, but let's stay with reliability for a minute.
Yeah, reliability is important. So the data network is really two main parts. It's the local area network, or the switches and wires inside your building, and there's typically network switches on every floor. And then those all come together into one server room or data center in a building. And it's where everything comes together that you really need to have the reliability and the network intelligence to have things work well overall. And you're right about security. If you're going to put all your information over a data network, in addition to being reliable, it's got to be secure.
Now, I'm guessing, you know what's so funny? I think when you get involved in something like a solution, and you're basically describing obviously that, sometimes people don't really know what the problem is, as kind of confusing as that may sound. Where I'm going is, I'm a small to medium-sized enterprise. What would be some of the symptoms that I would be having to deal with, either from a competitive or a cost standpoint, that would make me begin to realize, wait a minute, I need unified communications?
Oh, that's a good question. So one of them is, well, if you have a really old PBX and you're able to make phone calls, and that's pretty much it. And I guess the basic thing is, if you can do more on your cell phone than you can do on your office voice system, you probably need to be looking at unified communications. You know you're a redneck, huh? Right? I mean, so missed calls, received calls, being able to control your phone from your computer, being able to do single number reach. So if someone calls my desk phone, it rings my cell phone at the same time. We've also got an internal chat and presence system, so I can see if people are on their phones or not, and if they're on their phones, I can send them a quick internal secure chat message. We've even got video integrated into it, so that, for example, when one of my sales managers wants to interview someone remotely, he can do it face-to-face on desktop video instead of just over voice.
Well, needless to say, and again, that you're beginning to get in a little bit into our sandbox, because we're in new media and been involved in video for a long time, and we just see, obviously, we've said that for the last couple of years, video is the killer app. Now it's a case where the infrastructure is becoming so ubiquitous that there's no reason why you would not want to have that kind of capability. And I think your analogy about the cell phone or the mobile device, for lack of a better description, I think I'm dating myself by saying cell phone, but the mobile device, if you can't do it on your mobile device, or if you can do it on your mobile device and you can't do it in your office, you know you got a problem. Let's talk a little bit about clouds. Obviously, they're I'm going to say disruptive technology of the last decade. Each day, each week, each month, it becomes more and more pervasive. Tell us a little bit about how it's affecting unified communications.
So cloud is certainly affecting unified communications. Now, when you look at a high-end phone system or unified communication systems, there's some things that you just have to have in your office. You have to have a network to connect to. You got to have a connection to the internet. You got to have some basic security, and you got to have some kind of endpoint, whether it's a mobile device or a desk phone or something like that. So there's things that you can't completely put in the cloud with unified communications. But if I was a business 50 users and below, I would seriously look at one of the cloud providers out there that has all the software, servers, and connections to the rest of the phone system in their highly reliable data center, and then just look at getting some voice over IP endpoints, so some SIP endpoints or SIP phones in the office and connecting to that cloud service. When we run the numbers and look at people that are looking at doing more than 50 phones at this point in time, it tends to be more cost-effective to have an on-premise system. I expect that number to go up as the economics of cloud services continue to improve. But for many cases, the mid-size market, which is 100 phones to a few thousand phones, they still like to have all their servers and software on site for the unified communication system. But definitely, if I was a smaller business, I'd be looking at one of the cloud service providers out there for.
Well, needless to say, it allows me to leap into the new technologies and gives me a certain amount of experience, sort of graduating into it as I begin to expand and maybe get into the thing. Because I'm guessing that obviously the cloud alternative is a little bit softer in terms of impact of the initial startup costs that's involved, obviously, than the own equipment. Maybe touch a little bit upon ROI. Whether it's 50 or under or 100 or above. Do you see, is the issue and a return based on effectiveness and competitive advantage, or the ability to be more aggressive from a selling or a service standpoint, or is there actually a bottom line efficiency that ends up showing as far as a return on my investment?
There's actually both. In some cases, just like you said, there's a soft return on investment where you can be more reachable to your customers or to your suppliers. You don't want to miss a call or miss a communication. There's an expectation that when the phone rings 4 times, something's going to happen after that. You're going to answer it. It's going to go to voicemail. And if that voicemail, if you leave one, someone's going to get back to you. So you have to have a system that lets you do that at the basics just to be competitive. From an actual hard dollar cost ROI standpoint, as you get into multiple sites and things like that, having a unified communication system, instead of having both a network connection and a phone system connection to a building, each which costs somewhere between $500 to $600 a month, in many cases you can combine that to a single data connection of about $500 to $600 a month and run voice over that. So you could look in specific situations, there's a hard dollar cost savings for every location that you have of being able to save maybe $500 a month by converting over to this.
Okay, so now let's go into just a little bit as far as some granular issues are concerned. Certainly, we've both mentioned mobile a couple of times. Now the new thing is bring your own device. There's a whole trend affecting a lot of small to medium-sized enterprises, a lot of businesses in general. How is mobile and bring your own device trend affecting unified communications?
So 2 things. First, it's impacting the data network. So a lot of organizations are looking to have to upgrade their wireless local area network and, as a result, their wired local area network, because instead of wireless being a network of convenience that people would use every once in a while, now everybody has maybe 2 to 3 wireless devices that are on the network all the time. Then the next thing is, mobile devices are very convenient. Now, the major unified communication manufacturers and the cloud providers are all providing applications that run on these mobile devices that will hook into the unified communication systems. For example, I've got an iPad here. It's a full-up phone that's on our phone system. So I can do video calls with it. I can do chat. I can do instant messaging or presence, and I can make regular phone calls with it. So the unified communications and mobile devices are going hand in hand.
Okay, so now it's a case where I've gotten a general overview. I'm beginning to understand what are some of the problems that I might have to address that make me realize I need unified communications. What do I do next? Is there a consulting phase that I can get or go through, or how do I go about the next step?
Well, I've been in this business for a while. You can certainly work with consultants, but I would recommend that you find some local resellers or specialists in unified communications and ask them to take a look at what you've got and give you a quote. I mean, that's a time-honored method of buying, is to get 2 or 3 vendors to come provide some proposals to you.
But can you do apples to apples? I mean, can you really do competitive pricing? And unless you've done, I'm going to guess that you have some pretty strong capability on staff, or you've done your homework.
Oh, sure. And well, I mean, every business and government organization out there needs a phone system, and for the last 10 years there's been a large conversion over to unified communication systems. So there's a lot of people out here that do it. And obviously, I believe our company is one of the best and does a great job. But my unbiased advice to anybody that's looking at doing this is find a local company that's a reseller of a big national brand, and get them to give you a quote. And you can do apples to apples comparison, and that way you'll be able to get a really good feel for it.
And of course, I think you kind of say that with a little bit of a sense of pride, knowing that Cisco Systems is part of your situation as far as design, sold, and installed. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've really built our business around being good at Cisco Systems Unified Communications, and over the years they've become, I believe, the biggest player in the unified communications market. So I'm glad that ended up working out for us, and it's doing well for Cisco. So
are you doing holograms yet?
Every box ships with a hologram, and with the video calls that they do, I can't wait. I'm sure at some point there'll be full body avatars, 3D holograms, all that kind of stuff, so you won't have to travel as much.
Not that long away. Well, Rolf, obviously you're in an exciting segment of our evolution as far as the technology industry and the overall economy is concerned. I think 2013 is an era of, I'm going to say transformation, evolution, because I think there's a lot of, from economic issues or political issues, a lot of debate and challenges. But the reality of it is, with new technologies, and especially the kind that you guys offer, a vast amount of new opportunities for businesses to kind of get retrofitted and get ready for the next round. Thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule to join us today on Tech Talk.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it.